Some things feel like a scene from a soap opera, but it happened right there. In front of Mr. Nilsson's bakery. It was early, just another random Thursday, and the cloudy sky already warned me the day would be strange. I was just passing by, heading to yet another boring meeting about company mergers. The kind where you go just to shake hands with liars wearing expensive smiles. And then I saw her. On the sidewalk, leaning against a post, was a young woman. Pregnant. Alone. And with a look I had only seen once before, in the mirror. The day I lost my mother, she didn't ask for anything. Not money, not help, not even an apology. But the whole world seemed to scream around her, and she, silent. You know that kind of silence that weighs more than shouting. Yeah, that one. Mom, are you okay? I asked, almost on reflex. She looked at me like someone waking up from a nightmare. Took a while to respond, and when she did, she spoke softly, almost whispering, but it was enough to tear me apart. I'm waiting for the father of the child to come back. He said he was going to buy some bread. It's been 2 years. I wanted to laugh, but the truth hurt more than the joke. It hurt because, standing there in front of her, I realized I had everything except a soul, and she, with nothing, was still carrying someone inside her. Do you want anything? Food? Money? A place to stay? She slowly shook her head and said, I don't want charity. I just want someone to look at me, like I'm still a person. And right then, my friend, the world flipped upside down. Because there, on that dirty, forgotten corner, for the first time in years, someone saw me, without knowing my name, my bank balance, or my spot on the Forbes list. And you know what's even crazier? She turned her back, adjusted the strap on her torn backpack, and walked away without asking for anything, without leaving a number. Without looking back. But inside me, she left a ticking time bomb. I couldn't work, couldn't sleep right. And for the first time in a long while, I wanted to go back to that place, not out of charity. Out of guilt, out of shame, out of a void I had never noticed until she said that. And that's when the story that changed everything began. Because the next day, she wasn't there anymore, and I decided to do something I hadn't done since I was 20. Look for someone, without even knowing their name. And that's when things start to get serious. Want to know the first thing I found out? Well, only if you're ready to swallow some truths that not even expensive medicine can cure. Asterisk the next day, I went back to the sidewalk. Same time, same place, but she was gone. That's how the city works. It swallows people like they're nothing. One minute you're at the center of the world. The next, not even a footprint remains. I went to Mr. Z's bar, just around the corner. Did you see a young pregnant woman here yesterday? Leaning against the post. He didn't even have to. Think, oh, the crazy one? The one who talks to her belly. She talks to her belly. Yeah, she whispers stuff to the baby. They say she thinks her child will change the world. I stood still. The TV noise in the background. A soccer match felt distant. That sentence stuck to my ear. She thinks her child will change the world. And her name, no one knows. She showed up around here a few weeks ago. Sleeps at the shelter on 7th Street, but only when it rains. Says she doesn't like a roof that wasn't given by God. The more I heard, the more confused I got. I left there and went to that shelter. Old door. Smell of sour soup and resignation. A short lady, full of wrinkles and strength in her eyes, greeted me. The pregnant woman. She doesn't come often. Only when she feels the baby is scared of the rain. Do you know her name? No. But she calls the baby Light. Light, again. That feeling, as if each word she let out hammered straight into my conscience. And I, who had spent my life buying companies, buildings, politicians, even silence. There I was, trying to find a woman with no name, no address, who only slept when the sky cried. But it wasn't madness. It was need. Because the more I heard about her, the more I realized what I was missing. But then, just when I thought about giving up, I heard a sentence that stopped me cold. She came by yesterday asking about a man in a gray suit, who looked at her with sadness. Gray suit. That's what I was wearing that day. She had noticed me. And she left a message. If he comes back, tell him the light only appears to those who accept being in the dark first. The shelter lady looked at me and asked, does that make sense to you? Does it? I don't know. But in that moment, it shook everything inside me. And right then, I knew this story had just begun. I went home with her words echoing in my head. The light only appears to those who accept being in the dark first. It sounded like one of those riddles from an old book, or like Grandma's advice. Wrapped in a mystery doll, I spent the night, turning it over and over. Didn't check emails, didn't answer calls, didn't review contracts. I thought. The next day, I searched for security cameras on that street, asked my bodyguard to talk to a contact in the city surveillance office. After a few hours, we got it. There she was. Blurry image, black and white. But it was her, leaving the shelter with a backpack on her shoulder, a plastic water bottle dangling, and an envelope in her hand. I paused the footage, zoomed in. It was a crumpled envelope with one word written in red marker: return. Great. Another mystery for the collection. I showed it to the tech guy and asked, "Can you track where she went?" "Well, there's a camera at the bus terminal on the corner. If she passed through there, maybe." I rushed over. In the next footage, there she was, at the station. What caught my attention was how she walked. Slow, like she was in pain. Not physical pain, but the kind you feel when you carry a past. No one helps you lift. But the strangest thing was that even with that big belly, she got on an interstate bus. Destination, Santa Teresa de Minas. Tiny town. I didn't even know it existed. The lady at the ticket window confirmed she bought just one ticket, with coins, and before getting on the bus, she dropped this note, but I didn't have time to give it back. The note read, "If he comes after me, then there's still hope in the world." That hit me hard. Was she testing me, waiting for me, or just tossing words into the universe? Fact is, that woman knew about me, knew more than she should, and every step she took was pulling me into a story that wasn't mine, but felt written for me. I took the company jet, looked up directions to Santa Teresa, and told my assistant, "Cancel all meetings this week." "But sir, what about the deal with the Spanish group? If I have to lose money, I'll lose it. But if I lose that woman, I lose what's left of my soul." And just like that, I went, chasing a woman with no name, carrying a child not yet born, but who was already teaching a millionaire what it means to truly live. Santa Teresa de Minas looked like a scene from an old movie. Peeling paint on houses, a central square with a church closed for repairs, and the smell of burnt coffee lingering in the air. I got out of the rental car, jacket slung over my shoulder, and a question on my lips. No one spoke. People looked at me like I was a cop, a preacher, or a debt collector at the corner market. I tried. "Good afternoon. I'm looking for a pregnant woman. She passed through here in the last few days." "You mean the stranger?" the owner replied, scratching his belly. "Maybe. She arrived by bus this week. She stayed at Mrs. Olga's boarding house, but she left this morning. Said she was going to a place called Morro das Almas." That gave me chills. Morro das Almas? Souls Hill. And where is that? "About 2 miles into the woods. Closed trail. No one goes there since when?" He hesitated. "Since that house burned down. The pastor's house, the one who disappeared." I held my curiosity, took the path, damp trail, twisted trees, chirping crickets, and nothing but the sound of my own thoughts. I climbed the hill. Each step felt heavier. When I saw the house, I understood why. It was a ruin, collapsed roof, scorched walls. But there she was, sitting on a wooden stool, belly showing, eyes on the sky. She wasn't startled, didn't fake surprise. I knew. "You come," she said, like she was commenting on the weather. "How did you know?" "Because those who carry light always attract those walking in the dark." I didn't know what to say. "Not there. Not in front of her. This place has history," she said, pointing at the ruins. "And it has sin too. Why did you come?" "Here, because this is where he died." "Who?" She gently touched her belly and said, "The father of my child." I froze. What she had just said came out to plain for a story so deep. The father died. But how? When? Why? She stood up slowly, as if balancing the weight of the world inside her belly, walked over to what was left of the porch and pointed to a scorched spot on the ground. "It was here, the night he said he was going to change everything." "He lived here?" She nodded. "He was a pastor, young, handsome, but carried sadness in his eyes, the kind of sadness no prayer can cure. He preached to a church that didn't want to hear the truth, and when he spoke too much, they burned him alive." My stomach twisted. She went on. "He knew they were going to kill him that last night. He just held me and said, 'If one day you're alone, come back here, because the truth starts and ends on this ground.'" She turned to me with a painful serenity. "I'm not running away. I'm coming back. Nothing made sense. And yet, everything felt right. She knew what she was doing. She knew where she was stepping. But what gave me real chills was what she said next. I didn't come here to hide my son. I came to show where he comes from. And you, who have everything, need to know this. Why me? She looked deep into me. No fear, no hesitation. Because you carry a kind of emptiness that money will never fill. And that emptiness looks like what killed my child's father. Right then, the wind blew strong. And for a second, I swear I smelled smoke. Old smoke, burned memory. There, on that forgotten hill, I felt the pain of a past that wasn't mine, but had chosen me. She sat down again, in silence. Her belly seemed heavier that cloudy afternoon. Not the weight of her body, the weight of her story. When everything burned, she began. They said it was an accident, but I saw the eyes of the one who struck the match. I saw cowardice dressed in faith. She took a deep breath. The town went quiet. They buried him without a service, without goodbyes. Said it was better that way. To avoid scandal. I moved closer, not knowing what to say, and she, her voice almost breaking, whispered. I screamed for justice, but justice doesn't hear a pregnant woman without a last name. She didn't cry, but her eyes, they looked dry from crying too much. And what do you want now? I asked. She looked at me. No anger, no pleading. I want someone to listen, to see. Not for me, for my son. So he knows he was born of love and of blood too. For the first time in my life, I was speechless before a truth I couldn't buy, erase, or ignore. Are you alone? She gave a faint smile. No, I have him here, she said, touching her belly. And now, I think I have you. That sentence broke me, because I, who always avoided attachments, emotional ties, was there, wrapped in a pain that wasn't mine, but already lived in me. The wind blew again, this time, with the scent of wet earth, and I understood. Sometimes we just need to stop running, to start existing. The next day, I woke up early, barely slept. Her image sitting on that scorched floor haunted even the dark corners of my room. I went to the town's registry office, asked for records of the house, the church, the dead pastor, the clerk. An old man with cracked glasses and a low voice pulled out a dusty folder, opened it slowly, like handling something that stinks. His name was Elias Teodoro, 32 years old. Cause of death, undetermined due to lack of forensics. But the hospital report says third-degree burns, body almost unrecognizable. And the police? They closed the case as an electrical fire. But look at this. He pulled out a separate sheet. An anonymous tip filed a week before the fire. The pastor is saying things he shouldn't. He's going to cause trouble. Someone knew what was coming. I said, everyone knew. He replied, but no, one wanted to be the first to speak. I closed the folder. As I walked out, a young man stopped me on the sidewalk. You're messing with dangerous stuff. Who are you? Son of the police chief at the time. And let me tell you something. The man who ordered that house burned still lives here. Who? He hesitated, but nodded toward the road, owner of the lumberyard at the town's entrance. Antonio Muniz. The rage hit me hard. Not for me, for her, for Elias, for the child who would be born into a story stained before his first breath. I got in the car immediately. And as the sun hit the windshield, only one sentence echoed. If he comes after me, then there's still hope in the world. And so I went. The lumberyard was big, surrounded by trucks, sawdust, and a silence that clashed with the noise of machines. I asked to see the owner. They gave me a name, Mr. Muniz. Waited a few minutes, and he came out. Fancy polo shirt, bloated belly, eyes of a man who's seen too much and learned to hide what he shouldn't. Yes, I came to talk about Pastor Elias Teodoro. He froze, instantly, like someone took a silent slap, but he masked it. Don't know who that is. He lived on Morro das Almas, preached here, died in a fire. He crossed his arms. That was a tragedy, old story, better left buried. And why are people saying you knew everything? His smile faded. People talk too much, especially when they feel guilty for doing nothing. The words hit hard. Did he do anything wrong? He started saying that God didn't live in fancy temples, but in shacks in the streets. He wanted to disrupt the system. What system? Peace, order, obedience. And there I saw it. Not in what he said, but in what he did in single quotes. The fear, the restraint, anger, The arrogance of a man who believes truth can be burned away, and his wife. I asked. He laughed. That crazy woman, pregnant with what? Hope, and that's when my blood boiled. I stood up. Well, she's back, and she's not alone. He froze. She should have stayed gone. Some things, when they return, destroy more than they fix. Sometimes destruction is the only way to rebuild. I turned to leave, but before walking out, I said, the light you tried to put out is about to be born. I went back to the hill with that conversation still stuck in my throat with every step. My mind repeated the same thought. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity. She was waiting for me in silence, but this time, not with sadness, with strength. He saw you, she asked. He did, and he trembled, but hid it with words. She nodded. They always tremble when they realize lies have lost their courage. That night, she made a decision. Tomorrow, Sunday, I want to go to church. Some people won't like that. I know. That's exactly why I'm going. Sunday, 9 a.m., the small downtown church was full. Elders, youth, curious onlookers, and a strange buzz. She walked in slowly, simply dressed, belly exposed without shame. Whispers rose instantly. It's the crazy woman from the hill, the one from the burned pastor. What's she doing here? She walked straight to the altar, without asking, without waiting. The new pastor, a nervous young man, tried to stop her. Sister, this isn't the place. This ground was watered with blood. There's no better place to speak. She cut in, firm. Silence fell, and she spoke, told everything. The forbidden love, the inconvenient truth, the fire. They tried to extinguish the light. But it's right here, she said, placing her hands on her belly. I saw eyes filled with tears, and I also saw the faces of the guilty turned red dot at the back. Mr. Muniz left before the end, his pride bruised, his guilt pushing against his heavy suit. But that morning, for the first time in years, the town listened. I didn't dare interrupt. Asterisk her speech at the church spread like wildfire. By Monday, the town was already divided. Some were calling her a saint. Others wished she'd disappear again. What no one knew was that she had a name on a simple, strong, and for the first time, she said it without lowering her gaze. Honor from no one. Honor on her own, she told me with a soft smile. But the town wasn't smiling. At school, parents began to complain. In the square, the elders whispered when she passed. At church, the new pastor was pressured to keep her from coming back. She brings trouble, they said. She digs up what should stay buried, they insisted. But what they didn't know is that truth, when buried alive, eventually claws its way out with bare nails. The next Sunday, she showed up again for Mass. Alone. Belly bigger. Head held high. The pastor hesitated. The people whispered. But then, a child silenced everyone. A little girl from the choir. She must have been about 7. She stepped down from the altar, walked across the whole church, and stopped in front of Anna. Has he ever heard music? She asked, pointing at the belly. Anna smiled, unable to hold back her tears. Then the child placed her hand on Anna's belly and began to sing softly. An old nursery rhyme. One of those really traditional ones. The silence that followed was louder than any sermon. The hardest hearts lowered their heads. The most skeptical ones swallowed hard. And right then, for the first time, the whole town seemed to understand. Sometimes it takes a child to teach grown-ups how to recognize a miracle. Leaving the church, no one spoke to Anna, but no one looked at her with disdain either. It was the beginning. Small. Fragile. But it was a beginning, and I started to feel that this place, so small on the map, might just be big enough to restart someone's world. It was midnight. The town slept in a damp silence, the kind that only comes before a storm. And it came. Heavy rain, thunder ripping through the sky, lightning flashing over old rooftops. I was alone, reading in a small room at the inn, when the phone rang. It was Mrs. Olga. Panicked, hurry, Anna screaming in pain. Her water broke. I grabbed the car like I was racing to save the world. But on the way, the power went out. The whole town in darkness. Street lamps off. No signal. No hospital nearby. I arrived and found Anna on the floor of her room, sweaty, pale, groaning softly, as if trying to hide the pain from her son. Help me, was all she said. I froze. Not from fear, from desperation. I picked up Luz in my arms, and his name had never made more sense. Right there, with that baby on my chest, I realized I was about to lose more than a woman. I was about to lose the only chance I had of not being the man I used to be. In the operating room, she fought for her life and me. I sat on a hard wooden bench, cold sweat running down my back, praying silently without knowing any prayers. I thought of everything. The contracts I signed without reading, the people I hurt out of vanity, the times I masked my loneliness with expensive champagne, and there, with the little boy sleeping in my arms, I made a silent promise. If she survives, I'll never go back to the emptiness I came from after what felt like an eternity. The doctor came out. She nearly died, lost a lot of blood, but she'll be okay. I cried again, without shame, without holding back. When she woke up, still, weak, she looked at me and said, "You didn't leave me." I held her hand. Never again. And there, in that small room, smelling of alcohol and silence, I was saved by the woman who almost died, and by a little boy who didn't even know my name yet. After the birth, the town felt different. The sun rose shyly, as if paying respect to conquered pain. Anna slept peacefully, exhausted, and the baby in the crib made little noises, like he was dreaming of something sweet. I stood there, silently just feeling. But when I stepped out to get coffee, something fell off. Across the street from the hospital, a woman was staring at me. Dark coat, hair tied back, sunken eyes. She said nothing, but she didn't look away. "Can I help you?" She turned around and walked off without a word. I followed, but she vanished into the square. I returned and told the nurse. She turned pale. "That woman, she was here the night of the fire." "What do you mean?" "She used to attend Pastor Elias's sermons, but after the fire, she never spoke to anyone." "Does she have a name?" "No one knows." My mind lit up. She was a missing piece, someone who saw too much, stayed quiet out of fear, and was now back. I told Anna. When she woke up, she went pale, very pale. I remember her. She whispered. At the funeral, she stood at the back of the church. She cried, but never came to speak to me. "Do you think she knows what happened?" Anna took a deep breath. "Either she knows too much, or she's carrying someone else's guilt." That's when I decided to act. I told my assistant to hire a private investigator. I wanted to know who that woman was, where she came from, and why she returned now, of all times. Because if there's one thing life taught me, guilt never knocks on your door by accident. And that morning, I knew the story wasn't over yet. It was supposed to be a day of peace. The baby nursed calmly, Anna smiled gently, and the sun finally seemed to shine without guilt over that little piece of the world. But life loves to test anyone who's starting to be happy. Late in the afternoon, Anna began to sweat cold, said she was dizzy. Moments later, she started bleeding. A lot. Within seconds, the room turned to chaos. Doctors running, nurses grabbing cloths, and me, frozen not from fear, from helplessness. I picked up Luz in my arms, and his name never shone brighter. In that moment, I realized I wasn't about to lose just a woman. I was about to lose the only thing that had made me whole. She was in surgery, fighting to live. And me, sitting on that same hard bench, heart pounding, soul begging, even without knowing how to pray. I thought about it all. The empires I built, the people I stepped on, the trophies I bought instead of earning. And there, with the baby against my chest, I made a silent promise. If she survives, I'll never go back to the man I used to be. Hours passed. Then, finally, the doctor came out. "She'll live." "Barely, but she'll live." I cried again, without shame. When Anna opened her eyes, she looked at me and whispered, "You didn't leave." I squeezed her hand. Never again. And there, in that sterile hospital room, I was reborn by the woman who almost died for a truth the world tried to bury. A few days after surgery, Anna was better, still pale, but with a glow in her eyes that came not from her body, but from her soul. Luz, the baby, slept more peacefully, as if he'd felt the world had become a little less cruel. "We need to register him," she said softly. I nodded, got the paperwork from the registry, and came back to the room. "Name of the father?" she asked. I hesitated. Not because I had doubts, but because I didn't think I deserved it. "I'm not the father," I said. "You're the one who stayed, who held my hand, who gave a name to fear. That's worth more than blood." I signed, with trembling hands, but with a steady heart. Then came the question of the last name. Mine. The heavy. His biological father's. Burned in injustice. She solved it. He will be called Las Veras. Veras. Truthful. a name no one can erase, a name that carries what he came into this world to do. I held that paper like it was a mirror dot, and for the first time, I saw a reflection I was proud of, because in that name lived the story of a man who tried to run from pain, but was saved by it. Time passed, dotless grew up dot, and so did I dot, but not upwards dot inwards dot. The company was still standing, but it wasn't my world anymore dot. My world now had tiny feet, loud laughter, and a habit of asking everything. One afternoon, we sat together on the porch of the new house. He looked at the orange sky and asked, "Grandpa, why is my name Luz?" I smiled. "Because when you were born, everything was dark. You found me. No, you found me." He rested his head on my shoulder dot. Silence dot. A silence that didn't hurt, a silence that embraced. And there, with the wind blowing and the smell of fresh bread in the kitchen, I understood. Sometimes God doesn't send answers. He sends people, small, fragile people, but ones who change the entire course of your life. That pregnant woman on the sidewalk didn't want charity. She wanted to be seen. And when I saw her, I saw everything I was missing inside myself dot. So, what did you think of this tale, huh? Until next time, from your grandpa Rico.